80,000 Romans marched into a field full of confidence. By nightfall, most of them were already dead. It was the largest army Rome had ever assembled, gathered from across the Republic, and it walked straight into a trap without ever realizing it. Across the field, a smaller force waited patiently, led by a man Rome would never forget. Hannibal, outnumbered, far from home, and about to spring the deadliest trap in ancient warfare. His center would bend, but it would not break. Not yet. Not until the moment was right. The Romans pushed forward, convinced they were winning, pressing deeper with every step. They didn't see the flanks closing in around them, slow and deliberate. By the time they realized it was already too late, they were surrounded on every side, with nowhere left to run. What followed was one of the bloodiest afternoons in the history of war. Rome would never forget this field, or the name that broke them. 2 years earlier, Hannibal crossed the Alps, with elephants, with an army, with one clear goal in mind: bring the war to Rome's own soil, where they least expected it. Rome had already lost twice at the Trebia and at Lake Trasimene, both times badly. Panic spread through the Senate, growing louder with each defeat. Rome needed a decisive victory, something to finally turn the tide. So they raised the largest army Rome had ever fielded, drawing from every corner of the Republic. 80,000 men, 2 consuls, 1 mission: destroy Hannibal once and for all, whatever the cost. But the 2 consuls disagreed sharply, and neither would back down. One wanted caution, the other wanted glory, and only one of them would get his way. Hannibal knew exactly which one he was facing, and he planned accordingly. He chose the ground, an open plain, near a small town called Cannae. Flat, open, perfect for cavalry, exactly what he needed. The aggressive consul took command that day, just as Hannibal had hoped he would. He packed his ranks tighter than ever before. More men, less room to maneuver. He believed sheer numbers would crush anything in their path, no matter the formation. Across the field, Hannibal arranged his own line. Thin, curved, deliberately weak in the center. To Roman eyes, it looked like weakness. It was not. At dawn, the trumpet sounded, and both armies began to move across the plain. On the flanks, Hannibal's cavalry struck first, fast and utterly overwhelming from the very start. The Roman horsemen never stood a chance. They broke almost immediately, scattering in every direction. In the center, the infantry collided, crashing together in a wall of noise and dust. Just as planned, the center began to give way, slowly, step by deliberate step. The Romans surged forward, pushing deeper, certain of victory with every yard gained. The tightly packed legions grew tighter still. Men pressed shoulder to shoulder with nowhere left to move. On the flanks, Hannibal's African infantry had waited silently all this time. Now they turned, sharply. Without hesitation, the Roman flanks suddenly found enemies where allies should have stood only moments before, and behind them, the victorious cavalry had returned, closing the last gap before anyone could react. The circle was complete. 80,000 men, surrounded on every side with no way out. There was no longer a front line, only enemies in every direction they turned. The tightly packed legions that were meant to crush Hannibal could no longer even raise their swords. From the outside, Hannibal's forces closed in, methodically, without mercy. What began as a battle had become a slaughter. There was no retreat, no room to run, only the crush of your own army, pressing inward from every side. Carthaginian soldiers worked in shifts, cutting down the outer ranks, one line at a time, without pause. The men in the middle could not even see the enemy. They could only feel the ranks growing thinner around them. The aggressive consul, who had chosen this ground himself, fell somewhere in the chaos, lost among his own men. By afternoon, the fighting had slowed, not because it ended, but because there was almost no one left to fight. Some Romans tried to surrender. Few were given the chance to. By the time the sun set, tens of thousands of Romans lay dead on that single field, more than anyone could count. More Romans died in a single afternoon than most wars claimed in years, sometimes in decades. Hannibal walked the battlefield afterward, surrounded by a victory almost too complete to comprehend. His officers urged him to march on Rome itself, since the city lay open, undefended, ripe for the taking. Hannibal hesitated. Word of the disaster reached Rome before he ever could. Spreading through the streets like fire, the city descended into panic, families searching desperately for names on the casualty lists. Rome had never faced a loss like this before, and it would never forget it. But Rome did not surrender. Any other city would have surrendered after a loss like that. Rome refused. They passed a law. No one was allowed to even speak of peace under any circumstance. Every able man was called to serve, without exception. Even slaves were given weapons and sent to the front. Rome would not fight Hannibal head-on. Not again, not after Cannae. A new strategy emerged. Avoid, delay, wear him down slowly, over years if necessary. Hannibal marched across Italy for years, winning skirmishes, but never landing a knockout blow strong enough to end it. Without reinforcements, without siege equipment, he could win battles, but never the war itself. Meanwhile, a young Roman officer studied every detail of what happened at Cannae, again and again. He had survived that battlefield, and he swore he would never be trapped like that again. Years passed. Scipio rose through Rome's ranks, steadily, deliberately. He took the war somewhere Hannibal never expected, to Carthage itself, striking at the heart of it. Carthage panicked and called Hannibal home to defend it, pulling him out of Italy at last. For the first time in over a decade, Hannibal left Italy behind. The man who trapped Rome's largest army was about to face the student who had studied his own trap, move by move, at a place called Zama. At Zama, Scipio used everything he had learned from his own defeat years earlier at Cannae. He left gaps in his lines, on purpose, carefully placed. When Hannibal's elephants finally charged, they had somewhere to go, somewhere that led nowhere dangerous at all. The same mind that once fell for a trap had just built one of his own, turning the lesson back on its teacher. Hannibal watched his greatest weapon fail for the very first time in his life. By the end of the day, the man who never lost everything he had built. 16 years after Cannae, Rome finally had its answer. But historians still ask, even now, what if Hannibal had marched on Rome right after Cannae, while the city lay defenseless? The city lay open for days. He never came. No one knows why, not for certain. And history has spent 2,000 years wondering what would have happened if he had.